My name is Stephanie, and I just turned 23. 2 years ago, on my 21st birthday, my parents kicked me out of our family home with nothing but a suitcase and the clothes on my back. We used to be so close when I was younger, but something changed as I grew up and started making my own choices. That night, as I stood in our pristine living room, my father looked me dead in the eyes and said those words I will never forget: "You're nothing but a burden." What they did not know was that their cruel rejection would trigger a series of events that would change all our lives forever. Before I get into this wild story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. If you have ever had to stand up for yourself against family who did not appreciate you, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of survivors. Growing up in the affluent neighborhoods of Boston, I always believed I had a picture-perfect family. My parents, Richard and Margaret Wilson, were successful financial advisors with their own firm. Our house was a showcase of their success: 4 bedrooms, granite countertops, hardwood floors, and a perfectly manicured lawn that my father inspected every weekend. My childhood memories are filled with family vacations to Disney World, summer camps, piano lessons, and my parents cheering at my school performances. My father used to beam with pride when I brought home straight A's. He would ruffle my hair and call me his little genius. My mother would hang my artwork on the refrigerator and show it off to her book club friends. They supported my dreams and encouraged my creativity. At least that is what I thought. The first cracks appeared when I entered high school. My father became increasingly obsessed with status and appearances. Our family dinners turned into lectures about networking and making the right connections for my future. My mother, always his devoted follower, began hosting elaborate dinner parties to impress his business associates. She traded her casual clothes for designer outfits and started criticizing my artistic style. "Stephanie, honey, you should wear something more presentable," she would say, eyeing my comfortable jeans and favorite sweater with disapproval. "The Andersons are coming over and their daughter just got accepted to Princeton." The comparisons became relentless. Every achievement of mine was measured against the children of their friends and colleagues. The pressure to be perfect intensified, but I tried my best to please them while staying true to myself. When it came time for college applications, they had my life planned out: Harvard Business School, followed by a position at their firm. They had been grooming me to take over the family business someday. The problem: I had fallen in love with art and digital design. I wanted to create, not calculate profits and manage portfolios. The day I announced my decision to study art at a well-respected but not Ivy League school, something permanently shifted in our relationship. My father did not yell. Instead, his disappointment manifested as a cold silence that was somehow worse. "We will not waste our hard-earned money on a useless degree," he finally declared. "If you insist on this foolish path, you can pay for it yourself." My mother, seated beside him with perfect posture, nodded in agreement. "Think about your future, Stephanie. Art is a hobby, not a career." Despite their disapproval, I stood my ground. I accepted the university's offer and pieced together scholarships and student loans. To cover living expenses, I worked as a barista in the mornings and waited tables at night. Somehow, I still maintained a 3.8 GPA and found time to develop my skills. During those exhausting college years, I discovered something unexpected. I had a natural talent for computer programming and cybersecurity. An elective course in digital arts led me to web design, which led to coding, which eventually led to an internship at a tech security firm. I found a way to blend my artistic eye with technical skills that were actually in high demand. Not that my parents ever acknowledged this success. Throughout college, I tried to maintain our relationship. I came home for holidays and birthdays, enduring their passive-aggressive comments and not-so-subtle hints about transferring to business school. They reduced their financial support gradually until it disappeared completely by my junior year. Still, I persisted in trying to earn their approval. Meanwhile, my younger brother, Ryan, was being molded into their perfect heir. 3 years younger than me, he followed their prescribed path without question: business classes, internships at financial firms, and the right social connections. Yet, sometimes I would catch him looking at me with something like envy when I talked about my creative projects and the freedom I had found. Each visit home became more tense than the last. My father would interrogate me about job prospects while my mother would make comments about my appearance or dating life. Nothing I accomplished was ever enough. The tech company where I interned offered me a part-time position with the promise of full-time work after graduation, a significant achievement in my field, but they dismissed it as computer games. Despite everything, I still longed for their approval. When my 21st birthday approached during my senior year, I saw it as an opportunity for reconciliation. This milestone birthday could be a fresh start, I thought naively. I spent weeks planning my visit home, bought thoughtful gifts for everyone with my limited budget, and even splurged on a new dress that I thought my mother would approve of. I rehearsed stories about my accomplishments and prepared answers to their inevitable questions about my future. The night before leaving for home, my roommate noticed my anxiety as I repacked my suitcase for the third time. "Are you sure you want to go?" she asked. "You always come back from these visits completely drained." "They are still my family," I replied, folding the new dress carefully. "And it is my 21st birthday. Things will be different this time." If only I had known how different things would actually be. The crisp autumn air felt refreshing as I walked up the familiar stone pathway to my childhood home. Golden leaves crunched beneath my feet, and I adjusted the gift bags in my hands, a rare vintage scotch for my father, a silk scarf for my mother, and a collector's edition comic book for Ryan. My heart raced with both excitement and apprehension as I rang the doorbell. My mother opened the door, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Oh, Stephanie, we were beginning to think you would not make it." She gave me a brief, stiff hug, her expensive perfume overwhelming my senses. "Hi, Mom. The train was delayed a bit, but I am here now." I stepped into the immaculate foyer, noticing immediately that there were no birthday decorations, not even a banner or balloons. Perhaps they were planning a surprise later, I thought optimistically. My father emerged from his study, barely looking up from his phone. "You are late. Dinner is getting cold. No happy birthday, no hug, just criticism within the first 10 seconds of seeing me." Ryan bounded down the stairs and gave me a genuine smile and warm embrace. "Happy birthday, sis," he whispered, and for a moment I felt like someone in this house actually cared. Dinner was a masterclass in passive aggression. My mother had prepared my favorite meal from childhood, roast chicken with rosemary potatoes, but the conversation was anything but comforting. "Jennifer's daughter just accepted a position at Goldman Sachs," my mother mentioned casually while passing the salad. "Starting salary of $90,000, and she is a year younger than you." "That is great for her," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. "I actually have some good news, too. The tech company I have been interning with offered me a full-time position after graduation. The benefits are amazing, and the starting salary is competitive." My father scoffed. "Computer games and doodling. Is that what we raised you for? To sit in front of a screen all day?" "Dad, cybersecurity is not games. It is a growing field with excellent career prospects. My boss says I have a natural talent for identifying vulnerabilities in systems." I attempted to explain my work for perhaps the 100th time. "A natural talent for wasting potential," he muttered. I placed my fork down carefully, trying to control my emotions. "I have 3 job offers already, months before graduation. My portfolio has won 2 student awards. I am doing well, and I wish you could see that." The tension in the room thickened. Ryan stared at his plate, uncomfortable but unwilling to speak up. My mother pursed her lips in disapproval while my father's face reddened with each word I spoke. "You know what I see?" my father finally said, his voice dangerously quiet. "I see a stubborn, ungrateful child who threw away every advantage we gave her. Do you know how many strings I pulled to get you that interview at Morgan Stanley? How many favors I called in? And you threw it back in our faces for some artsy fantasy. I never asked you to pull strings. I wanted to find my own path." "Your own path," he laughed bitterly. "Look at you, waiting tables and making coffee while living in that dingy apartment. Is that the path you are so proud of?" Each word felt like a slap. I work hard for what I have, and my apartment might not be a mansion, but it is mine. I earned it. My mother interjected, her voice dripping with condescension. "Darling, we only want what is best for you. Look at your cousin Amanda. She just got engaged to a surgeon, and they are buying the most charming house in Cambridge." "I do not want Amanda's life," I said firmly. "I want my own." "And what exactly is your life going to be?" my father demanded. "Some struggling artist living paycheck to paycheck. Is that the future you envision?" I will not be struggling. Digital design and cybersecurity are valuable skills. I could show you the statistics on job growth in my field if you would just listen for once. That was when my father slammed his fist on the table, making the fine china jump. Enough, I have listened to this nonsense for years. You have been nothing but a disappointment since you chose that ridiculous school. The room fell silent. Even my mother looked shocked at his outburst. Richard, she whispered, but he cut her off. No, Margaret, it is time she heard the truth. He turned to me, his eyes cold. You have become nothing but a burden to this family, a constant reminder of failure and poor choices. The words hit me like physical blows, a burden. After all my efforts, all my hard work, all my attempts to maintain our relationship, while staying true to myself, I was just a burden to them. If that is how you feel, I said, my voice shaking slightly, perhaps I should leave. Perhaps you should, he agreed, his tone dismissive. In fact, I think it is time you stopped coming back here expecting us to support your misguided choices. This is no longer your home unless you are ready to get serious about your future. I stared at him in disbelief. Are you kicking me out? On my birthday? Consider it a wake-up call, a 21st birthday present of reality. I looked to my mother hoping for some intervention, but she merely dabbed at her lips with a napkin, avoiding my eyes. Your father is right, Stephanie. You need to grow up and stop this rebellion. The injustice of it all burned in my chest. This is not rebellion. This is my life, my career, my future. And I have been supporting myself for years now, despite what you think. Then you should have no problem continuing to do so somewhere else, my father said coldly. Pack your things and leave tonight. When you are ready to apologize and accept our guidance, we can discuss your return. I stood up slowly, my dinner barely touched. There is nothing to pack. I do not keep much here anymore. This was true. Over the years, I had gradually taken my most treasured possessions to my apartment, subconsciously preparing for this very scenario. The next 30 minutes passed in a blur of emotion. I went to my childhood bedroom now, stripped of personality and repurposed as a generic guest room. I gathered the few clothes and mementos I had left, tears streaming silently down my face as I folded each item into my small suitcase. When I came downstairs, my parents were in the living room, my father reading a financial magazine while my mother scrolled through her phone. Neither looked up as I stood in the doorway, suitcase in hand. I am leaving now, I announced, my voice steadier than I felt. My father nodded without looking up. Let us know when you have come to your senses. My mother glanced at me briefly. Take care, Stephanie. No hugs, no well wishes, no acknowledgement that it was my birthday and they were throwing me out into the night. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. As I headed to the door, Ryan came running down the stairs. Wait, he called out. He hugged me tightly and slipped something into my pocket. Happy birthday, he whispered. I am sorry. Call me tomorrow. Outside, the evening had turned cold, matching the ice in my heart. I stood on the sidewalk of the elegant neighborhood where I grew up, suddenly homeless on my 21st birthday. The tears came in earnest now, as I pulled out my phone to look for a nearby motel. In my pocket, I found what Ryan had given me, $300 in cash and a handwritten note. This is wrong, do not give up. I checked into a budget motel 20 minutes away, the kind of place my parents would never set foot in. The room was clean but sparse, a queen bed with a faded floral comforter, a small television, and a bathroom with flickering fluorescent lights. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my carefully chosen dress, and finally allowed myself to break down completely. How had it come to this? My birthday, which should have been a celebration, had turned into the worst day of my life. The people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had discarded me because I refused to live the life they had scripted. The pain was physical, a deep ache in my chest that made it hard to breathe. I cried until there were no tears left, then lay back on the unfamiliar bed staring at the ceiling. As the initial shock began to fade, another emotion started to take its place: anger. Pure, righteous anger at the injustice of it all. I had done nothing wrong except choose my own path. I had worked hard, maintained good grades, never gotten into trouble, and even tried to keep our relationship intact despite their disapproval. As I drifted into an exhausted sleep, one thought crystallized in my mind: they would regret this night. Somehow, someday, they would regret treating me like I was disposable. Morning light filtered through the thin motel curtains, waking me from a restless sleep. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then the events of the previous night came rushing back with painful clarity. I was 21, officially an adult, and officially alone. My phone buzzed with a text message from Lauren, my best friend from college. "Happy birthday. How was dinner with the parents? Call me." I pressed the call button immediately and she answered on the second ring. "Hey, birthday girl. How did it go last night? Did they finally come around?" The sound of her cheerful voice broke something inside me, and I started sobbing uncontrollably. "Stephanie, what happened? Are you okay?" Between gasps, I managed to tell her everything. The cold reception, the cruel words, and finally being kicked out on my birthday. "Those absolute monsters," Lauren said, her voice tight with anger. "Where are you now? Please tell me you are not sleeping in your car." "I am at the Pinewood Motel off Route 9. Pack your stuff. I am coming to get you. You are staying with me and Jesse until we figure this out." 2 hours later, I was sitting in Lauren and Jesse's cozy apartment, wrapped in a blanket with a mug of hot chocolate in my hands. Their kindness only highlighted the callousness of my parents' behavior. These friends who had known me for less than 4 years showed more care and concern than the people who had raised me. "You can stay as long as you need," Jesse assured me, squeezing my shoulder. "The pull-out couch is surprisingly comfortable." The next few days passed in a fog of emotion. I alternated between crying jags and periods of numb disbelief. Lauren and Jesse took turns staying with me, making sure I ate and encouraging me to talk through my feelings. Ryan called daily, providing updates from home and apologizing profusely for not standing up to our parents. "They are acting like nothing happened," he told me during one call. "Dad went golfing this morning and Mom is hosting her book club right now. It is insane." A week after the birthday incident, I was scrolling through social media when I saw a post from my mother that made my blood boil. A family photo from last Christmas with the caption, "Missing our Stephanie who decided to go her own way." Sometimes children need to learn hard lessons about responsibility and family loyalty. The comments were filled with sympathetic responses from their friends and extended family. "So hard when kids rebel. She will come around when she matures. You raised her right, she will find her way back." They were rewriting history, painting me as the villain who had abandoned them, not the other way around. And people were believing it. Later that day, my Aunt Caroline called, her voice hesitant. "Stephanie, honey, is everything okay? Your mother told us you had some kind of breakdown and rejected the family." "That is not what happened," I said, then explained the truth. The silence on the other end told me she did not fully believe me. "Well, family disagreements can be complicated," she finally said. "I am sure if you apologize, they will welcome you back." After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence. They had not only kicked me out, but were actively turning family against me. The injustice of it burned like acid. The final blow came when I met with my academic advisor to discuss my upcoming final semester. During our conversation about graduation plans, she frowned at something on her computer screen. "That is odd. It looks like there is a hold on your account." My stomach dropped. "What kind of hold?" "Financial. According to this, your last tuition payment was reversed, and there is an outstanding balance of $8,200 for this semester." I felt the blood drain from my face. My parents had promised to pay my final semester's tuition as a graduation gift even after our disagreements. It was the last bit of financial support they had offered, and I had gratefully accepted. Now they had pulled even that out from under me. "If this is not resolved before the deadline next week, you will be dropped from your classes," my advisor explained gently. "Is there someone you can talk to about this? Your parents, perhaps?" The irony of her suggestion would have been funny if it were not so painful. "No," I said quietly. "There is no one." Walking back to Lauren's apartment, a dangerous idea began to form in my mind. Throughout college, I had helped my parents with their online banking and investment accounts. They were brilliant with face-to-face financial advising, but surprisingly technologically inept. I had set up their online accounts, created their passwords, and even showed them how to use financial apps on their phones. More than once, I had recovered forgotten passwords and reset security questions for them. In short, I probably still had access to their financial life. The thought made me pause on the sidewalk, my heart racing. What if I use that access not to steal money? I would never commit a crime, but to create complications, to give them a taste of the chaos and insecurity they had thrust upon me. The ethical implications troubled me. Would this make me as bad as them? Would it cross a legal line I needed to research carefully before taking any action? That evening, after Lauren and Jesse had gone to bed, I sat cross-legged on the pull-out couch with my laptop researching banking regulations and account access laws. I learned that while accessing someone else's account without permission could be considered unauthorized access, the lines were blurry when it came to accounts you had been previously authorized to manage and where login information had been willingly shared. I did not want to steal from them or commit fraud. I just wanted them to experience some of the uncertainty and anxiety they had caused me. I wanted them to face consequences for their cruelty. The next morning, I met with the financial aid office to explain my situation. The counselor was sympathetic but limited in what she could offer. Since your parents claimed you as a dependent on their last tax return, their income is still considered in your financial aid calculations, she explained. But let me see what emergency options we might have. She managed to find a hardship grant that would cover part of my balance and help me apply for an emergency student loan for the rest. It would add to my debt burden, but at least I could finish my degree. As I walked across campus, the plans solidified in my mind. My parents had left me to sink or swim on my own, had actively tried to sabotage my education, and were now spreading lies about me to anyone who would listen. They deserved to experience some consequences. That night, I confided in Lauren about what I was considering. I still have access to their accounts. I could freeze their credit cards, change their security questions, report suspicious activity. Nothing illegal, just inconvenient. Lauren looked concerned. That sounds like it could backfire spectacularly, Steph. What if they press charges? I have been researching all day. As long as I do not take any money or cause permanent damage, it falls into a gray area legally. Besides, they gave me this access willingly. I never stole their passwords. But is it worth it? Will revenge make you feel better? I considered her questions seriously. I do not know if it will make me feel better, but they are living comfortably after destroying my security and trying to ruin my future. They are spreading lies about me to our family. They need to understand there are consequences for treating people like they are disposable. Lauren was quiet for a long moment. Just be careful. Do not do anything that could come back to hurt you. You have worked too hard to throw it all away for revenge. I will be careful, I promised. And it is not just about revenge. It is about justice. That night, I made my decision. I had nothing left to lose. My parents had taken my security, my reputation with our family, and had tried to take my education. They needed to experience some consequences of their own. I set up a secure connection using a VPN and taking other precautions to cover my digital tracks. Then I began preparing for what I would later think of as my own financial advisory service, one my parents never asked for but definitely deserved. The following evening, after finishing my shift at the cafe, I returned to Lauren's apartment and found it empty. My friends had gone to a study group, leaving me alone with my thoughts and my laptop. It was time. I made a cup of strong coffee, settled on the couch, and opened my computer. My hands trembled slightly as I navigated to my parents' bank website. Would they have changed their passwords? Had they thought to revoke my access after kicking me out? I entered my father's username, rwilson1963, and the password I had created for him years ago, rwmarvest21, a combination of his initials, my mother's name, and the date they had made their first successful investment. The screen loaded, and just like that, I was in. They had not bothered to change a thing. For several minutes, I just explored. My father had always been meticulous about their finances, maintaining separate accounts for different purposes: household expenses, business costs, investments, and savings. I navigated through each one, taking screenshots as I went. What I discovered shocked me. Despite their wealthy appearance and constant bragging about financial success, my parents were living well beyond their means. Their mortgage was underwater after a recent refinancing to pull out equity. Credit card balances totaled over $70,000 across 6 cards. They had taken a second mortgage on their vacation home in Cape Cod. Their investment portfolio showed several recent losses, yet their spending had not decreased. They were financial advisors drowning in debt while presenting an image of prosperity to the world. The hypocrisy was staggering. As I dug deeper, I found email correspondences with their lawyer about updating their will. 3 months before my birthday disaster, they had removed me as a beneficiary, leaving everything to Ryan. This had been planned. They had been preparing to cut me off completely long before our final confrontation. In another folder, I found draft emails to my university's financial aid office inquiring about canceling a payment they had already made for my final semester. The date on these drafts was 2 weeks before my birthday. They had invited me home knowing they were going to kick me out and withdraw financial support, leaving me stranded mid-semester. The calculated cruelty of it made my earlier hesitation evaporate. They deserved what I was about to do. I started with their credit cards. For each one, I used the Report Suspicious Activity function, indicating I had noticed unauthorized purchases. This would trigger an automatic freeze on the cards until the potential fraud could be investigated. I made sure to use their own phone number for contact information so they would receive the alerts and confirmation codes. I did not want to intercept their communications, just initiate the security protocols. Next, I accessed their profile settings and changed the security questions and answers. I did not forget the answers. I made them more complex and documented them in an encrypted file. If they needed to recover their accounts, it would be possible, but extremely frustrating. I moved on to their automatic payments. They had numerous recurring bills set up: mortgage, car payments, country club membership, utilities, insurance premiums, and more. I did not cancel these outright. That might be too obviously malicious. Instead, I changed the payment dates to be 5 days later than the due dates. This would result in late fees and potential credit impacts, but the payments would eventually go through. For their email accounts, I created rules that would send important financial communications to folders they rarely checked. Again, not deleting anything, just making it harder to find time-sensitive information. One by one, I worked through their accounts, creating small administrative hurdles and inconveniences that would compound over time. I was careful to ensure nothing I did was permanent or technically illegal. I did not transfer any money, steal any information, or cause irreparable harm. I simply introduced friction into a system that had previously run smoothly. The entire process took nearly 3 hours. When I finished, I cleared my browsing history, turned off the VPN, and closed my laptop. A strange calm had settled over me. I had not acted in blind rage, but with calculated precision, a skill I had learned partly from my father himself. Would it work? Would they make the connection to me? How long would it take them to untangle the web of complications I had created? Only time would tell. The next day, I threw myself into rebuilding my life. I updated my resume, applied for full-time positions at several tech companies, and scheduled extra hours at the cafe to build up my savings. I also made an appointment with a therapist through the university's counseling center. I recognized that I needed professional help to process the trauma of being rejected by my own parents. 2 weeks passed with no direct fallout. Ryan called occasionally, but he mentioned nothing unusual happening at home. I began to wonder if my actions had had any impact at all. Then Lauren burst into the apartment one evening, her eyes wide. "You will never believe what I just heard. Your parents were at Bella's restaurant last night. You know, that fancy Italian place downtown. Their credit cards were all declined. All of them. Your dad made a huge scene yelling at the waiter and manager. They finally had to call someone to bring cash to pay for their meal. Everyone was staring." A small, satisfied smile crept across my face. "You do not say. Stephanie, did you?" I shrugged noncommittally. Sounds like they might be having some financial difficulties. Ironic for financial advisors, would not you say? Lauren looked at me with a mixture of concern and admiration. "You are a little scary sometimes, you know that." "I learned from the best," I replied, thinking of my father's calculated business maneuvers over the years. Over the following weeks, more reports filtered in through Ryan and mutual connections. My parents had been embarrassed at a charity gala when they could not complete their usual generous donation because their cards were declined. Their attempts to resolve the credit card issues kept hitting roadblocks due to the changed security questions. They missed their mortgage payment for the first time in 20 years because the automatic payment went through after the due date. Dad is losing it, Ryan told me during one of our calls. He spent 4 hours on the phone yesterday trying to sort out the credit card situation. They keep asking him security questions he cannot answer. And Mom is furious because they had to cancel their anniversary trip to Paris because none of their cards are working. That sounds stressful, I said neutrally. How are you holding up? Honestly, it is kind of enlightening. They have always acted like they have everything figured out, like they never make mistakes. Seeing them struggle with basic financial stuff. It makes them seem more human, you know. I did know. And I felt a bittersweet satisfaction that Ryan was seeing our parents more clearly now. As weeks turned into a month, the complications I had created began to compound. Their pristine credit score took hits from the late payments. Business associates began to question my father's financial acumen when rumors spread about his personal financial troubles. My mother had to cancel hosting duties for a prestigious charity event, losing social standing she had spent years cultivating. Meanwhile, my own life was improving. I accepted a position with a cybersecurity firm that specialized in financial protection, an irony not lost on me. The salary was higher than I had anticipated, allowing me to put a deposit on my own small apartment. I reconnected with extended family members telling my side of the story without embellishment, and many were sympathetic once they heard the truth. The contrast could not have been starker, as my parents' carefully constructed facade crumbled. I was building something authentic and sustainable. It was not the life they had planned for me, but it was becoming a life I was proud of. The first major sign that my digital interventions were having serious consequences came exactly 1 week after I implemented my plan. I was having coffee with a former classmate when my phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. Something weird just happened. Dad tried to pay for dinner at the country club and all his cards were declined. He almost had a meltdown right there in front of everyone. Mom had to call her friend Patricia to bring cash. Never seen him so embarrassed. I sipped my latte, a small smile playing on my lips. The country club was sacred ground for my father, the place where he networked with clients and maintained his image as a successful financial advisor. To face humiliation there would have been particularly painful for him. 2 days later, Ryan called rather than texted. The weirdness continues, he said, his voice a mixture of confusion and amusement. Dad spent 3 hours on the phone with the credit card companies yesterday. Apparently, all their cards are frozen because of suspected fraud. And get this, when they tried to verify his identity, he could not answer the security questions correctly. He kept saying someone must have changed them. That sounds frustrating, I replied neutrally. How is he handling it? Not well, Ryan chuckled. He threw his phone across the room at one point. Mom is freaking out because they have the Winterfields Gala this weekend and no working credit cards. The Winterfields annual charity gala was one of the most prestigious social events in my parents' circle, a night when Boston's elite gathered to support a children's hospital while showcasing their wealth and status. My mother spent weeks preparing for it each year, selecting the perfect designer gown and jewelry. The thought of them attending without functioning credit cards to make their usual ostentatious donation was deeply satisfying. Through various connections in social media, I continued to monitor the situation from a distance. A former neighbor texted me, "Saw your parents at Crestview Country Club yesterday. They were turned away at the door. Apparently their membership is on hold due to payment issues. Your dad looked like he was going to explode." The country club membership, which costs $20,000 annually, plus monthly fees, too, was automatically billed to their credit card. When the payment failed due to the frozen accounts, and the backup payment was delayed due to my adjustments, their membership had been temporarily suspended according to club policy. My mother's social media presence, once a carefully curated showcase of their perfect life, became noticeably sparse. No more photos of exclusive restaurant meals or shopping trips. No humble bragging about charity events or vacations. The silence spoke volumes. 3 weeks into my plan, the consequences escalated further. Ryan called me sounding genuinely concerned. "Steph, I think Mom and Dad are in real financial trouble. I overheard Dad on the phone with the mortgage company. They missed a payment, and now there are penalties." He kept saying there must be some mistake, that the automatic payment should have gone through. This was more serious. Missing mortgage payments could affect their credit score and potentially lead to more severe consequences if not addressed. I had not anticipated the domino effect of my actions. how one missed payment could trigger penalties, which made the next payment harder to make, creating a downward spiral. "Do you think they cannot afford the payment?" I asked, genuinely curious about how precarious their finances actually were. "I do not know," Ryan admitted. "They have always acted like money was no object, but Dad has been super stressed lately. He and Mom had a huge fight last night about her spending. I have never heard him talk to her like that before." The image of my parents fighting over money was difficult to reconcile with the united front they had always presented. They had been partners in everything, including their rejection of me. Now that partnership was showing cracks. "There is more," Ryan continued, lowering his voice. "Dad's business partners called an emergency meeting yesterday. I think clients are getting nervous because of rumors about Dad's personal financial problems. One of his biggest clients already pulled their account." This was an unintended but not surprising consequence. In the financial advisory world, reputation was everything. If a financial advisor could not manage their own money, why would clients trust them with theirs? "How are you doing with all this?" I asked Ryan, genuinely concerned for my brother who was caught in the middle. There was a long pause, confused mostly. Everything was so stable and perfect, or at least it seemed that way. "Now Mom is crying every night, Dad is having whispered phone calls in his office, and I keep finding past due notices in the mail. It is like watching a slow-motion car crash." "I am sorry you are dealing with this," I said, and I meant it. Ryan was not responsible for our parents' actions or their current predicament. "The weirdest part is," Ryan continued, "neither of them will admit anything is wrong. They are still planning this big summer vacation to Italy and talking about renovating the kitchen. It is like they are living in denial." The picture Ryan painted reminded me of the psychological concept of cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that results from holding conflicting beliefs. My parents were experiencing the collision between their self-image as financially savvy, responsible people and the reality of their mounting financial problems. Meanwhile, my own life was stabilizing. I had accepted the job offer from the cybersecurity firm and found a small but charming apartment I could afford on my new salary. I was scheduled to graduate in 2 months with job security already in place, something many of my classmates could not claim. My therapist had been helping me process the trauma of my parents' rejection and my complicated feelings about my revenge. "What you did came from a place of deep hurt," she observed during one session. "While I cannot condone it, I understand the impulse to make them feel some of the instability they thrust upon you." "Do you think I should undo it?" I asked, genuinely uncertain. She considered the question carefully. "That depends on what outcome you are hoping for. What would constitute justice in this situation for you?" I did not have a clear answer. Part of me wanted my parents to suffer indefinitely, to experience the same sense of abandonment and insecurity they had inflicted on me. Another part hoped this crisis might spark genuine self-reflection and change, and a small, stubborn part still yearned for the reconciliation I had once naively expected on my birthday. As the weeks passed, the consequences of my actions continued to ripple outward. Through Ryan, I learned that my parents had to cancel their summer vacation plans and postpone the kitchen renovation. My father was spending hours each day trying to untangle their financial complications, making increasingly desperate calls to banks, credit card companies, and financial institutions. He hired a financial investigator, Ryan told me during one call. He is convinced someone has deliberately sabotaged them. My heart raced at this news. Does he suspect anyone in particular? Not yet. He keeps saying it must be a competitor trying to ruin his reputation. I felt a mixture of relief and disappointment. Relief that they had not connected the problems to me, but disappointment that even now they could not see how their own actions might have invited consequences. The most significant development came nearly 2 months after I had implemented my plan. Ryan called me sounding shaken. "You will not believe what just happened. Mom and Dad had this big dinner party planned for Dad's business associates. You know, the annual one they always stress about. Everything was delivered. The catering, flowers, wine, everything. Then, when it came time to pay, their accounts were all messed up. The caterers threatened to take the food back. Dad had to write personal checks, which he never does." "That sounds mortifying," I said, picturing the scene. "It gets worse," Ryan continued. "During dinner, Dad got a call from the bank. Apparently, they are at risk of foreclosure if they do not make the payments they have missed. He took the call in his office, but I could hear him shouting. When he came back to the dinner party, he was white as a sheet. Everyone noticed. 2 of his associates left early. Foreclosure. That was far more serious than I had intended. I had wanted to create inconvenience and embarrassment, not potentially make my family homeless. Had I gone too far? The dinner party was a disaster, Ryan went on. Mom kept trying to maintain appearances, but she had clearly been crying. Dad barely spoke. After everyone left, they had the biggest fight I have ever witnessed. Mom blamed Dad for mismanaging their money, and Dad accused her of spending too much on appearances. They both seemed broken. As I listened to Ryan describe our parents' unraveling, I felt a complex mix of emotions: satisfaction that they were facing consequences, concern about the severity of those consequences, and unexpected sadness at the image of my parents as once invincible parents reduced to fighting and tears. That night, I reviewed the encrypted file, where I had documented all the changes I had made to their accounts. I had the power to undo everything: restore the original security questions, remove the email filters, and reset the automatic payment schedules. I could end their financial nightmare with a few hours of work. But something held me back. They had shown no remorse, made no attempt to contact me, and were still apparently spreading the narrative that I had abandoned them. Until they acknowledged the truth and took responsibility for their cruelty, I was not ready to release them from the consequences of their actions. Little did I know, the confrontation I was waiting for was already on its way. 3 months after I implemented my plan on a rainy Saturday afternoon, a thunderous knocking shook the door of my new apartment. I had been curled up on my couch reviewing code for a work project, enjoying the peaceful life I had built for myself. The aggressive pounding made me jump. Through the peephole, I saw my father, his face flushed with anger, his normally impeccable appearance disheveled. For a moment, I considered not answering, but I knew this confrontation was inevitable. I had been waiting for it, perhaps even orchestrating it through my actions. I opened the door but kept the security chain engaged. "Can I help you?" "You know damn well why I am here," he snarled, his voice carrying down the hallway. "Let me in right now." I unlatched the chain and stepped back, allowing him to enter but leaving the door open. Mrs. Garcia from across the hall had appeared in her doorway, clearly concerned about the commotion. "Everything okay, Stephanie?" she called out. "Everything is fine, Mrs. Garcia. Just a family discussion." My father stormed into my apartment, taking in the modest but tastefully decorated space with a dismissive glance. "So this is where you live now. How quaint." I remained calm, a stark contrast to his barely contained rage. "What can I do for you, Dad? It has been 3 months since you kicked me out on my birthday. No calls, no texts, no apologies. And now you show up unannounced at my door." "Do not play innocent with me," he snapped. "I know what you did. You sabotaged us. You accessed our accounts and created this nightmare." I gestured to my couch. "Would you like to sit down? You seem upset." "Do not patronize me. Fix it, right now. Undo whatever you did to our accounts." I sat down in my reading chair, maintaining my composure. "What makes you think I did anything to your accounts?" "Who else would it be?" he demanded, still standing. "Who else had access? Who else would want to ruin us? It had to be you." "That is interesting," I said evenly. "When you were telling family and friends that I abandoned you for no reason, did you consider that actions have consequences?" His face reddened further. "You, ungrateful little. Do you have any idea what you have done? We are facing foreclosure. My business is suffering. Your mother can barely show her face in public because of the rumors." I am sorry to hear that, I said, and part of me genuinely was. It must be difficult to feel insecure about your home and your reputation, to have everything you built threatened, to feel abandoned by someone you trusted. The parallel was not lost on him. For a moment, something like recognition flickered across his face, but it was quickly replaced by renewed anger. "This is not the same thing at all. We were trying to guide you to help you make better choices. You were throwing away your potential by kicking me out on my birthday, by canceling my tuition payment mid-semester, by telling family I abandoned you when you were the ones who rejected me." My voice remained steady, but I could feel heat rising in my cheeks. "You did not guide me. You punished me for not becoming your clone." A knock at my still-open door interrupted us. My neighbor Derek, a burly graduate student in engineering, stood in the doorway looking concerned. "Everything okay in here, Stephanie?" I heard shouting. My father turned to glare at him. "This is a private family matter." Derek did not budge. "I just want to make sure Stephanie is okay." "I am fine, Derek, thank you," I assured him. My father was just leaving. "I am not going anywhere until you fix what you did," my father insisted, but his voice had lowered considerably with a witness present. I turned back to my father. "I think we need to continue this conversation when you are calmer. Why do not you come back tomorrow, bring Mom? We can discuss this like adults." "We do not have time for games," the bank called yesterday. "If we do not resolve these payment issues by Monday, they are initiating foreclosure proceedings." This was worse than I had anticipated. I had wanted to create problems for them, but not to make them homeless. That sounds serious. Why do not you sit down and tell me exactly what is happening with your finances? Something in my tone must have conveyed that this was his best option because he finally sank onto my couch looking suddenly exhausted. "Everything is frozen or delayed or missing," he said, running a hand through his hair. "Credit cards suspended. Mortgage payments missing. Investment accounts requiring verification we cannot provide. Client invoices going unpaid because the email notifications are disappearing. It is a disaster." "And you think I caused all this?" "I know you did," he said, but the rage had drained from his voice, leaving only tired certainty. "No one else had access. No one else knew our systems like you did." I took a deep breath. "Let me ask you something. When you invited me home for my birthday, had you already decided to kick me out that night?" He looked away. "That is not relevant." "It is completely relevant. Had you already canceled my tuition payment before I arrived?" His silence was confirmation enough. "You planned it all," I continued. "You invited me home, knowing you were going to throw me out and cut me off financially. You had already removed me from your will. You set me up to fail, and then told everyone I abandoned you." "We were trying to teach you responsibility," he muttered. "Number. You were punishing me for not living the life you prescribed, for choosing art and technology over finance, for being myself instead of your idea of me." He looked up, and for the first time I saw something besides anger in his eyes, uncertainty, perhaps even a glimmer of recognition. "We are your parents. We know what is best for you." "Do you? Because from where I am sitting, you do not even know what is best for yourselves. You are financial advisors living beyond your means, drowning in debt to maintain appearances." His head snapped up. "How could you possibly know about our debt?" "The same way I know you have been hiding losses from Mom and she has been hiding her shopping expenses from you. The same way I know you remortgaged the Cape House without telling your business partners who co-own it." The color drained from his face. "You looked through all our accounts." "I did. And do you know what I found? Two people so obsessed with appearances that they were willing to sacrifice their relationship with their daughter to maintain the facade. Two financial experts who were financial disasters behind closed doors." He sat in stunned silence as the truth of my words sank in. My phone rang, breaking the tension. It was my mother. I answered and put it on speaker. "Richard," her voice was frantic. "Did you find her? Did she agree to fix it?" "I am right here, Mom," I said calmly. There was a pause then. "Stephanie, you need to stop this right now. Do you understand what you have done to us? We could lose everything." "I understand completely. I lost everything 3 months ago on my birthday. My home, my family, nearly my education. That was different. You chose to leave." "I chose nothing. You gave me an ultimatum to either live the life you demanded or get out. That is not a choice, that is coercion." My father was watching me with an unreadable expression. "We are your parents," my mother insisted, her voice breaking. "You cannot do this to us." "I am your daughter," I countered. "But that did not stop you from throwing me away like garbage when I did not fit your plan." The line went quiet. Then finally, in a smaller voice, "What do you want from us, Stephanie?" It was the first time either of them had asked what I wanted instead of telling me what I should want. The question caught me off guard. "I want you to understand what you did. Really understand. I want you to stop lying to family about what happened. I want you to respect my choices, even if they are not the ones you would make. And I want an apology. A real one, not a transaction to get your accounts unlocked. Another silence, then my father spoke. And if we do these things, you will fix the accounts. If I believe you are sincere, yes. My mother's voice came through the speaker again, sounding defeated. We could be facing foreclosure by Monday, Stephanie. We do not have time for gradual reconciliation. The urgency in her voice sparked a moment of doubt. Had I gone too far? Was I becoming as manipulative and controlling as they had been? Here is what I propose, I said after a moment of reflection. I will help resolve the immediate financial issues to stop the foreclosure, but full resolution of everything else will depend on genuine effort from both of you. What does that mean exactly? My father asked warily. It means I will help you prevent losing your house, but the other complications, the credit cards, the payment schedules, the security questions, those will take time to untangle. Just like rebuilding, our relationship will take time. It was not a perfect solution, but it was one that acknowledged both the severity of their situation and my need for genuine reconciliation rather than a quick fix. Fine, my father agreed reluctantly. When can you start? Tomorrow morning. Both of you come here at 9 a.m. Bring your laptops and any financial notices you have received. And Dad, come prepared to be honest about everything, with me and with Mom. The gravity of the situation seemed to finally hit him. His financial house of cards was collapsing, and his only hope was the daughter he had discarded. We will be there, he promised, humility creeping into his voice for perhaps the first time in his life. After they hung up, my father stood to leave, looking suddenly older and more vulnerable than I had ever seen him. At the door, he paused. For what it is worth, I never wanted to lose you as a daughter. I just wanted to direct you. I know, Dad. But I am not a company to be directed. I'm a person with my own path to follow. After he left, I sat in my quiet apartment processing what had just happened. The confrontation I had been both dreading and anticipating had finally occurred, and I had remained strong. More importantly, for the first time in our relationship, my parents would be coming to me on my terms. I texted Ryan to fill him in on what had happened. His response was immediate. About time they faced reality. Need me to be there tomorrow. Not tomorrow, I replied, but soon. We all have healing to do. That night, I prepared for the next day's meeting, organizing my notes and clarifying in my mind what I was willing to fix immediately and what would require more time and evidence of changed behavior. I was no longer the desperate birthday girl abandoned by her parents. I was a professional with leverage and boundaries, ready to negotiate a new kind of relationship. The path forward would not be easy, but for the first time, it felt like we might be walking it together, not with me following their lead, but with mutual respect for each other's steps. The next morning, precisely at 9 a.m., my parents arrived at my apartment. They looked like diminished versions of themselves. My father without his usual commanding presence, my mother's perfect appearance slightly frayed at the edges. They carried laptops and manila folders, stuffed with financial notices. Come in, I said, gesturing to my small dining table where I had set up my computer and prepared coffee. We have a lot to cover. For the next 4 hours, we worked through their financial tangle. I showed them exactly what I had done, the fraud alerts on credit cards, the changed security questions, the rescheduled automatic payments. I had documentation of everything, including the steps needed to reverse each action. As promised, I helped them resolve the most pressing issue first, the mortgage payments. By the afternoon, they had confirmation that the foreclosure proceedings would be halted once they made the overdue payments with penalties. I still do not understand how you did all this, my mother said, looking at me with something like reluctant admiration. I learned to be resourceful, I replied. When you cut me off financially and emotionally, I had to become self-sufficient in every way. My father was reviewing the notes I had made about their overall financial situation. You figured all this out just from looking at our accounts. Yes, you taught me to read financial statements, remember? Before you decided I was a disappointment. He had the grace to look ashamed. We never should have said those things to you, especially not on your birthday. It was not quite an apology, but it was a start. Why did you do it? I asked. Really, was my choice of career so terrible that it warranted throwing me away? My parents exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. It was not just about your career choice, my mother finally admitted. It was what it represented. Rejection of our values, our lifestyle. We built everything around certain principles: stability, respectability, financial success. When you chose a different path, it felt like you were saying our choices were wrong. I never judged your choices, I said. I just wanted to make my own. We see that now, my father said quietly. Seeing how you have built your own life, how capable you have become, it has been eye-opening. We took a break for lunch, ordering sandwiches from the deli downstairs. The conversation shifted from financial matters to more personal territory. You should know I told them that I never intended to cause this much damage. I wanted you to experience some of the instability and rejection you inflicted on me, but I did not mean for it to threaten your home. Yet you did not stop it when things escalated, my father pointed out. No, I acknowledged, because you never reached out, you never apologized. You continued telling family that I had abandoned you. It seemed like you were still unwilling to acknowledge any wrongdoing. We were wrong, my mother said, suddenly her voice catching. What we did to you was cruel and unnecessary. I have known it since that night, but pride kept me from admitting it. The admission hung in the air between us, the first crack in the wall of justification they had built. Why are you telling me this now? I asked cautiously. Because you need me to fix your finances or because you actually mean it? Both, my father answered with surprising honesty. We need your help, yes, but these months of chaos have forced us to reevaluate everything. Our relationship with you, with each other, even our definition of success. By late afternoon, we had created a plan to resolve their financial issues gradually. I would help them regain access to their accounts and remove the fraud alerts on their credit cards immediately. The other complications would be untangled over the coming weeks, contingent upon progress in rebuilding our relationship. There are conditions, I said firmly. First, you need to tell the family the truth about what happened, that you kicked me out, not that I abandoned you. Second, you need to respect my career and life choices going forward. And third, we all need to commit to family therapy to work through these issues properly. They agreed to my terms, and as they prepared to leave, my father hesitated at the door. What you did with our accounts, it was impressive. Misguided and problematic, but impressive. You would have made an excellent financial strategist. I smiled slightly. I am an excellent cybersecurity specialist. Different field, same analytical skills. Yes, he nodded. I can see that now. The following weeks brought gradual change. My parents followed through on their promises, beginning with awkward but honest calls to family members, explaining what had really happened. My mother called my Aunt Caroline, specifically admitting they had misrepresented the situation. I helped them untangle their financial complications bit by bit as they demonstrated genuine effort. My father's business downsized, moving to a smaller office and focusing on quality service rather than prestigious appearances. My mother found purpose beyond social status, volunteering at an arts program for underprivileged children, perhaps her way of acknowledging my creative path. Ryan and I grew closer through the experience. He made the courageous decision to tell our parents he wanted to switch his major from finance to environmental science. You inspired me, he told me during one of our coffee meetups. Seeing you stand your ground, build your own life, it made me realize I have been living their dream, not mine. Our parents' reaction to Ryan's announcement became a test of their newfound understanding. While initially dismayed, they ultimately supported his decision, a clear sign that our family dynamic was truly changing. Family therapy was challenging but necessary. In those sessions, we unpacked decades of expectations, disappointments, and miscommunications. My parents confronted their obsession with appearances and their tendency to measure success in financial terms. I acknowledged that my revenge, while understandable, had crossed ethical lines. I wanted justice, I explained to our therapist, but I almost became as controlling as they were using financial pressure to force behavior. The difference, our therapist pointed out, is that you recognized the problem and chose to stop it before irreparable harm was done. 1 year after the birthday that had shattered our family, we gathered to celebrate my 22nd birthday. It was a modest celebration in my apartment. No expensive gifts or elaborate decorations, just homemade food and genuine conversation. As we sat around my small dining table, my father raised his glass. To Stephanie, who taught us the hardest and most important lesson of our lives, that true success is not measured by bank accounts or social status, but by the strength of our relationships and the courage to live authentically. My mother reached for my hand across the table, and to forgiveness which we are still working to earn, but are grateful to be offered. The journey from betrayal to reconciliation had been complicated and painful, but sitting there with my imperfect but evolving family, I felt a sense of peace I had not known was possible. The experience had transformed all of us. My parents were learning to value substance over appearance, building a more modest but honest life. Ryan was pursuing his passion with newfound confidence. And I had grown into a stronger, more self-assured woman who knew her worth was not defined by others' expectations. The revenge I had taken could have destroyed us all. Instead, it had become the catalyst for rebuilding something healthier from the ashes of what was broken. Sometimes I realize relationships need to completely fall apart before they can be reconstructed on a stronger foundation. I still have moments of doubt and lingering hurt. Healing is not linear, and trust once broken mends slowly. But each day brings small improvements, new understandings and opportunities to choose connection over resentment. If my story resonates with you, know that standing up for yourself does not make you selfish, setting boundaries does not make you cruel. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and others, is to refuse to participate in toxic dynamics even when they come wrapped in the package of family love. Have you ever had to stand up to family who could not see your true worth? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story helped you feel less alone in your own family struggles, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, we cannot choose our family, but we can choose how we respond to them. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength and clarity on yours.